I just saw what my guardian father had done, and I had watched a lot of YouTube videos on prospecting, and I saw what was possible. And I was like, it's going to happen for me one day. You know, I thought to myself, if I can just improve just a little bit every single day, eventually I'm going to be at a spot where nobody can touch me in my market. And it got to that point.
Welcome to the 0 to 100 podcast show, where we are all about one thing: time freedom through cash flow real estate. That's right. Not just financial freedom, but time freedom. I am here with my co-host, Travis Dillard, Mitchell England, as I am every week, and our guest today, Mr. James Michener. James, with a decade in real estate and nearly 1,500 homes sold, James leads a high-performing team of 13 agents, consistently achieving over $1 million in annual earnings for the past 5 years. His real estate investment portfolio includes 26 rentals with a passive income of over $300,000 yearly. Beyond transactions, James is passionate about mentoring. In his 7 years as a coach, he has seen 4 of his members earn Rookie of the Year and numerous others break the six-figure mark. James is committed to helping realtors not only thrive, but also achieve financial freedom through his Real Estate Freeway strategy, which I cannot wait to hear about because it sounds like it aligns a lot with the 0 to 100. Can't wait to hear more about that. So without further ado, James, welcome to the 0 to 100 podcast show.
Thanks, guys. I've been looking forward to it ever since the mastermind and meeting everybody. Getting to meet Mitch, which is awesome, Travis, and longtime friend Gabe for past almost decade we've been talking. But yeah.
I noticed he said Mitch, which is awesome. Oh, and Travis, and then Dave, my best friend.
Yeah, he's like Travis. Oh yeah, I saw Travis there as well.
Travis didn't talk to me as much. I'm just kidding, Travis.
Yeah.
You were awesome too. Sorry,
well,
I get nervous on this podcast. You know,
I thought that James was the best looking person at the mastermind. I don't know if it's the beard and the hair, just the way he does. Here we go. Travis goes, here we go.
Where are you calling in from right now? Where are you at?
I'm in Prescott, Arizona. So it's an hour and a half north of Phoenix, up in the mountains of Arizona.
And Mitchell, where in the hell are you? Talk about, you're on the road somewhere in the middle of a night storm and living down in a van down by the river.
We're moving back from Wisconsin. We got stuck in an ice storm, went through a couple blizzards. It's been fun. Don't move. Don't travel across Nebraska in the middle of the winter. So we made it to Boise. So we're home free.
I won't move and travel through Nebraska in the middle of winter. Deal.
You never know.
Yeah. So James, we had the pleasure. We've met and hung out multiple times. You were at our mastermind in Scottsdale, Arizona, which was awesome. You don't live far from there. It was great having you there. And there's some future masterminds, in-person masterminds planned for 2025. So I hope you'll be joining us there as well.
Nice. Yeah, it was really, really cool. That house was epic. The conversations were good. It was great. So like how down to earth all you guys are and sharing, and yeah, good stories.
There's actually a funny story behind that house, but we won't get into this podcast. That was like a last minute switcheroo for us. It was a bit of a bait and switch from Airbnb anyway, but it was great. Yeah, I had some great conversations. Your bio is really impressive. I knew it was impressive down in Scottsdale when we were talking. Apparently I wasn't talking to you that much because I'm a jerk.
You were busy. You guys have everybody want to talk to you, so I get it. I've been in that spot. So
even Mitch. So I want to hear about. I'm looking at your bio. Was that a freeway strategy? Is that what you said? Is that a freeway?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Which I wish I would have known about earlier in my career. But do you want me to guys go into the basics of that?
Yeah. Let's. Why don't you share what the freeway strategy is, and then we'll back kind of into your story, like how you started and how you got to sharing this freeway strategy with other investors.
Yeah. So I started in real estate over a decade ago. And for the first 8 months, I made $0 being a real estate agent. So got 0 paychecks for that 8 months. And finally, I started doing prospecting, which would be calling cancel expireds, for sale by owners, sphere of influence, and just getting my name out there. And from November to July 1st, I had no closings. From July 1st to the end of December, I closed 26 deals and was Rookie of the Year that year. It was insane how fast it went. And my first how fast the train started rolling after it started, right? I got my first paycheck, which was $5,500. And I remember being in the car with my wife and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just made $5,500. Like if I could do this 10 times a year or a month, that would be $55,000 a month, right? Like I would love to do that. And so I just set my goals on making, $100,000 a year. And then it was 300, then it was 500. And then I had lunch with one of the top guys in town. I said, have you ever made $1 million? And he said, yeah, I've done it a couple times. And that was in December. That next year, I actually made $1 million that year and continued to make $1 million for the following years. But the real estate freeway came because doing as many sales as I was doing, I think in 2020, I did 183 deals myself and then 373 with my team. That includes like wholesale, that include 33 wholesale deals, a couple fix and flips, buying some rentals, and then the rest were retail or residential transactions, land and selling people homes and selling their homes, etc. And I realized I was totally going to get burnt out. But luckily, I'd been buying real estate throughout those years because I was making so much money. I didn't need all of it, right? And so my guardian father retired from real estate at 55 years old with 24 doors. And that was like, literally, he retired 10 or 15 years before all of his other friends did, who were doctors. They owned furniture businesses, attorneys, CEOs, and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, this is the way to go. So I just started buying up rental properties. And usually what we would do is our first house was a house hack. So we bought a duplex, moved into one side, rented out the other. And our bills were $400 a month, which was basically the same amount that we were paying for renting the downstairs of a house from somebody else. And I was like, dude, this is really cool. So then we found other deals, right? I had clients or friends that were like, hey, I want to sell this house. It's totally trashed. I don't know if I can put it on the market. So I said, on the market, you could probably make this. I'll pay you this, though, if you want to sell it to me. So we would do that. Me and my wife would move into a house, get owner financing, then move out of it. And eventually there was so much income coming in and so many deals coming through from the team and just my own prospecting that I just started picking these up left and right. And then my name started getting out there and I would get calls on great deals coming through from other real estate agents and attorneys, etc. So I just kept plowing money into those.
James, how did you determine what to keep, what to wholesale, what to list? I mean, was there a method there, or were you just these are properties in your backyard, so you knew like, hey, this is a good deal, and you would just offer the seller, hey, I'm willing to list this for you, or I can give you this price. Were you doing that on every property, or how did you pick through the ones you wanted versus the ones you didn't?
No, not every property, but I knew. For me, I wanted a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with at least a 1-car garage, right? On a non-busy road. One of them I did buy that was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath with no garage. The garage was converted to a bedroom and is on busy road. And I quickly figured out what kind of tenant I was getting for that, right? And I was like, I don't want to do this. So I ended up selling it. I made $100,000. I was calling on for rent by owners. This lady said, yeah, I'll sell you my duplex and I'll carry you on it, right? At 4%, give me, $100,000 down. I was like, cool, perfect. That's what I'm going to make on this other house. Plus I'll have $200,000 left over from the sale because the proceeds were $100,000 that I was going to make on it. So I gave that to her. And, but I quickly realized I didn't want to buy anything that was going to be on a busy road or didn't have a garage. And I wanted to have 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes. I generally, for a long time, I stayed away from manufactured homes or trailers, but recently I got some pretty good deals on those and then people carrying me on it. So I ended up buying a couple of those, which I still have in my portfolio, which I'm going back and forth on if I want to keep them. But I did not make a deal with every single person or offer every single person to buy their house rather than listing it, because some of those houses were in such good shape that, once I gave them the number of what they could list it for, very few people wanted to know if it was a good house in good condition, they're not asking you what you would pay for cash or what an investor would pay for it. So,
James, I'm curious, just timeline wise, how many transactions roughly did you do before you said you had a meeting with was it your father-in-law? Or no,
my guardian father.
Your guardian father, before you realized that you wanted to be an investor, not just transact in real estate?
Oh man, I got into real estate knowing that I wanted to own rental properties because I saw what he was able to do. And I saw that he kind of had like a little side gig, and we would drive around town and he'd be like, oh, I own that. I own this. I own that, It's kind of like Rich Dad, Poor Dad in a way, is pretty cool. And after I'd read that book,
That's pretty rare. I mean, a lot of brokers become brokers to become real estate investors and then just own a job till they die.
dude, that's what so many real estate agents do.
But so many people in the real estate world, like CPAs, like they see their real estate investor clients
Yep.
making all this money, paying no taxes. And it's like, how the fuck do they not buy a rental property after seeing that? Some real estate attorneys, but a lot of agents and brokers have never invested in real estate ever. And so I'm just curious. You said you got into real estate and you knew you wanted to be an investor. How long did it take you to buy your first investment property after transacting in real estate?
It was the first year I bought a duplex, and I just put it out there to my colleagues and prayed about it, put it out to universe God, and was like, my wife at the time was like, I need out of this place. And I was like, well, I want to buy something. I don't want to move into another high price rental, because rental prices were going up. And so one of the guys in my office is like, hey, we're listing this duplex. It's going to be $195. Do you want to come take a look at it? I went and looked at it in a couple hours. We walked in. I was like, I'll buy it right now. And at that point, I didn't have 2 years of taxes, but I had the down payment. But my wife had worked at her job for 5 years. So we bought it under her name. I gave the down payment. And so we bought that. That duplex I bought for, I ended up buying it for $190 and then $5,000 in seller concessions. So, now it's worth $600,000.
Wow.
Almost a decade later. Yeah. Which is pretty cool.
Are you still seeing decent deals in there? Because I remember like Arizona, in the Phoenix area, like got whacked during the Great Recession. And I want to go back before you even got into becoming a broker, because I want to know where you came into this with your mindset. But just on a side tactical note, are you still buying deals? Are you still buying deals to turn into rentals in the Phoenix area? I know prices have bounced back pretty considerably over the last decade.
So Prescott's going to be a pretty different market than Phoenix, because we're an hour and a half north in the mountains. And so our population is like 150,000, whereas Phoenix is like 7 million. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty different market. But there's deals we found. I mean, I bought 6 new doors, right? I bought a new duplex and then 4 other houses. But that was I had to start digging into the foreclosure list on those. And then I had clients that were calling me wanting to sell. And then they're like, I'll carry you on this if you want to do it. And then we had text message system that popped up a couple deals as well. So, I'm being much more picky and choosy, because we tried to do a flip that we bought off MLS, and I was going to make like 30 grand. And I just thought that was too low.
And for our audience members, when James says carry, finding a seller that'll carry, not carry like Mitch carries me through life, like carry, and the seller is going to provide financing, which is something that I'll explain to Gabe. What a seller carry means is when the seller plays the bank.
The god of seller carry, he dares
Dude, it's
to.
the best thing you can do. It's the ultimate thing.
Yeah, owner financing, seller financing. It's when the seller carries the financing versus getting a bank loan. The seller becomes the bank. You're making your mortgage payments to the seller versus to a bank.
Yeah, seller contracts, like sweet honey on my lips. I love it. It's the best thing ever. So James, so you're like, let's go back before you became an agent. You said you became an agent, was it 10 years ago?
It's going to be 12 years now.
Okay. So how old are you? You're
37. I just turned 37.
You're a youngster. So you started in your 20s. Like, what did you do before that? Were you kind of look like you might have been a bouncer and you beat the shit out of people for a living, but
I actually worked at Wells Fargo Bank, and then
you kick people's ass at Wells Fargo.
Yeah. The bouncer at Wells Fargo.
That's right.
I carried the money in, But then I worked at Grand Canyon University as a recruiter for their online programs. And then I was taking a piss next to one of the professors in the bathroom and was talking to him. He's like, you going to take that promotion you're going to get? I'm like, no, I want to go teach English in some other country. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, I own a school in Taiwan and we have 3 openings. Would you want to go and invite 2 of your friends? And I'm like, sure. He's like, you'll have to go through the interview process, but I'm sure I can get you in. So I did that. And 1 month later, I was in Taiwan teaching English for the summer. Left Taiwan, went to Thailand for a month, backpacked through there from north to south and back to Bangkok. Got back to the States, worked on a farm in Montana for a couple months, 3-4. and then left Montana, went down to Mexico and worked with our Race for the Wounded, their Baja race for about a month, and then came back and settled in and met my wife a couple weeks later. And that's what I've been up to.
I love how that all started with like talking to some guy at the urinal. You know what I mean? I don't usually introduce myself.
Yeah. I love that story.
You know what? At the very top of the show, because it was in your bio, we asked about the real estate freeway strategy. And then we went on to some other amazing tangents, but real estate freeway strategy, give us high-end overview, what that is, how you've used it, how you're teaching others to use it.
So you brought up a super good point, Gabe. You said it's crazy how real estate agents and brokers do not invest in real estate. And it's unreal to me how many of these high producing agents, I mean, I got an agent that makes $1 million to $1.8 million a year, right? And he owns 2 rental properties, and he's been doing this for almost 25 years, and he's been making $1 million for probably 15, 16 of those years.
Wow.
And I had lunch I went to his little man cave that he has, and he's like, dude, what you have done is so crazy. I wish I would have done what you did, but now the prices are super high. I totally missed out on that. I'm going to have to keep working, whereas you're done, right? And I quickly realized that selling real estate it's a 7-day-a-week job, right? It's super hard. You got to keep getting business over and over again. And so I figured out what wholesaling was, right? Because I'd get these deals, and then if I didn't have the money to take it down, or I just didn't want to take it, I'd give it to one of my investor clients. Well, that investor client would fix it up and they would sell it, but sometimes they wouldn't use me because their cousin got their license, right? So I'm out of that commission. Or they would change it into a rental and I got nothing out of it. Or again, they just use another agent. So I started getting a wholesale contract and then reassigning it to that investor and the different investors. And the first one I did, I made $55,000. And he's like, whoa, I thought you've been selling all these deals to me for what you got them for. I'm like, not anymore, man. Sorry. So that's why I got into it, right? So that's one lane of it. The second lane is the rentals. We come across such good deals all the time, and and if you're a real estate agent, you should know what that rent's for, right? What the appreciation's going to be, etc. Everything that makes it a good deal, and the tax implications, because you're constantly getting asked that. So that's another lane of it, right? Then private money investing. And Gabe, I listened to your call or your guys' podcast with the younger guy that you lent money to, right?
Adit Shah.
Yeah, he's really cool, by the way. That was a great podcast you guys did with him. So I started lending money as well, which I make somewhere around $200,000 to $300,000 a year, just lending the cash I have saved up, right? So that's another form of it. Running a team is another part of it. There's just it's the freeway. There's every time you make a call to a client, there's a way you can either make a commission, do a wholesale, buy the property as a fix and flip, buy it as a rental property, or lend money on that, right? And so that's the real estate freeway on that.
So is that called freeway because there's different, like you mentioned, metaphorically, there's different lanes?
Yeah, there's 5 different ways of making some sort of money on that, right?
But most agents, it's one lane, one transaction, it's a commission, and they're done.
Yep. And for me, I was like, dude, there's got to be a way to make this happen for everybody and make everybody happy. And some agents will be like, I'm not going to offer somebody to buy their house. Like they want to make the most amount of money they can. But you know how many times I went to a listing appointment and then I call them back and they're like, oh, I sold it to an investor. I'm like, what? Like,
right.
Damn, I would have bought that. They're like, I didn't want to list it. Like, I didn't want to deal with people coming in and out of my house. I just wanted a certain amount of money and I want it out of here.
Well, it's like when you're talking to somebody that wants to just get rid of a house, they don't necessarily want to clean it, stage it, fix it, show it, get out of the house on the weekends to show it. Sometimes you're doing them a favor by buying it, getting them liquid, and then moving on. And I think we talk about this all the time in any business transaction. It's like, stop, shut the hell up, and ask what they want. What does the seller want? What's important to them?
Yeah.
And oftentimes, I'd probably say more than 50% of the time, it's not necessarily the price. Right? Yeah. And so again, unpacking some of the things you're saying here is, first of all, I pick up the damn phone. Here's a guy that's making multiple 7 figures a year because he just picked up the damn phone, right? You weren't, don't wait for shit to cross your desk. Pick up the phone and then ask questions and then shut up and listen. And I love that you've got sort of a solution. You got 5 different strategies. And are you just still doing single family houses? Are you rolling up into bigger stuff? What does that look like?
No, I'm just doing duplexes and triplexes at this time, So, and then single family. I've thought about it. Like, I listened to Gabe's net stuff, and I thought that was your guys' as well with like the commercial properties, and I think that's super amazing. I did pull a list for the trailer for the RV parks as well, and I started calling through those as well because it was probably, I don't know, before I even met Gabe, I listened to his podcast on Bigger Pockets.
Bigger what?
Oh, what?
I'm sorry, what? Bigger?
Oh, am I not allowed to say that word?
Sorry. They're just really struggling. So we sometimes we hate talking about them as we watch them fade away.
Anyways, I started asking all those people that I was calling with the RV parks if they would be willing to carry those, right? And just having different conversations. For me, I need to familiarize myself with a little bit more. And I thought about selling some properties and then 1031ing into something bigger. Because you guys said it all weekend long. It's easier to deal with the bigger properties than it is the smaller properties. So,
do you have who manages all your rentals? Your single family? Are you doing that in-house?
I manage.
So you're not a lifestyle design guy. You're running a team of 13 people. You're managing 20 some rentals. Like, do you have a need or a desire to start putting systems in place to make this more passive?
Dude, absolutely. I mean, that's been my thing. This year, it's coming down to simplicity and like just overall just keeping bad stuff out of my life as well. Whether that's like stress I don't want or like not drinking, staying like completely sober and just being super healthy. I've been working out for a few months now and getting back into it, but just simplicity, man. I really want that. And if you like, that's one of the things that super attracted me to Gabe was the simplicity that he had in his life. Like, you can look at everybody else, right? That does this, that was on other podcasts, right? And then you look at Gabe's lifestyle. And the only reason I'm bringing up Gabe is because I've followed a lot of what he's done, right? And to live that lifestyle of like, you wonder what Gabe does, right? But he's still making great money. He's still out there helping people just like you guys are. But he's keeping it simple by not doing wholesale. It's like you guys' intro, no wholesale, no flipping. We're just talking about residential real estate rentals, right? And I want to get there, but it's like, what's my number to get there?
Technically not residential, just buy and hold cash.
Or buy and hold, buy and hold.
Like Gabe owns a lot of triple net stuff. We own commercial real estate and different types of assets. So, and it's funny that you mentioned simplicity. And this is a conversation Mitch and I have been having a lot lately. Like, I mean, first of all, first conversation is how to be more like Gabe, which we always have. And then second is like, how can we be more simple and how can you simplify things and sort of just stick in your lane and just find something that works and repeat it.
But we made that mistake too. I think that there's a balance between being an entrepreneur, being excited about things, running towards multiple ideas or initiatives. And then you turn around and you go, oh, this isn't that simple, but it's also caused by your own sort of excitement. So it's like, you got to have sort of a governor. I notice even on myself, like I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a lifetime entrepreneur, but I have to be careful what I bring in because you can add complexity. Great example is bringing in a hotel into our portfolio. Well, we were doing great with mobile home parks. Why did we do that? Well, we were excited. We saw upside. We're like, oh, this is going to be amazing. Now that's been a drag on our portfolio. It's been a tough asset for us. We're not hotel people. We're not good at it. We're right. So it's been an anchor out. It's been an anchor, but like that's a mistake that we should have said, hey, like what's our filter for what we actually want? We actually want to live lives where we can travel, we can hang out with our kids and be. So anyway, I just think it's like this balance between an excited entrepreneur moving forward, trying new things, but also making sure those new things support your actual like lifestyle.
When I hear this, I think about clarity because I think the clearer you are on what you want your life to look like, right? It's just easier to say yes to those things that align, right? And James, like, I mean, you're a real life scenario. You're kicking ass in all these areas, but I know because you've told me and you've told us here, like you want that time freedom, you want that passive income. I mean, I remember being on a phone call with you in, I think it was 2020, and I'm on a road trip with my family. And you're like, fuck, I want time freedom. I want time freedom. So I'm curious because I think there are a lot of people, a lot of listeners in your shoes. And sometimes it's a lack of clarity, right? I watch people get involved in all these different areas of real estate, right? And then sometimes including investing, but it actually takes them farther away from that time freedom goal. So I'm curious, like, on the spot live podcast right here, like 2025, how do you make that shift from, I mean, and maybe you're enjoying a lot of the things you're doing, but you said, hey, I want simplicity. I want to enjoy my life. So how do you make that, that transition? What are the things that you put in place? What do you maybe eliminate? Like one of the topics at our live event was, what was it? Multiplication through subtraction.
So good.
Right. That just kept coming up. So like, what is it in your life that you need to subtract in order to multiply whatever it is that you're after? Time freedom, financial freedom.
And I know like my story sounds cool and like I'm doing all that stuff, but it gets old after a while. And honestly, like I'm burnt out and I need to figure it out. Like I need to figure out how to get the clarity. I don't know, Gabe, like I've probably talked to you about this so many times. I mean, I think I probably called you three, 4 times and said, what do you do on a daily basis, Gabe? Like, what do you do?
No one knows. We've tried. No one knows what Gabe. He works out, he walks the dog, and he takes a sauna and does whatever the hell he wants.
Did take a sauna this morning. I do almost every morning. But here's the deal though, like time freedom, like our focus here at 0 to 100 is time freedom through cash flow real estate. And it doesn't matter what I do with my day because every day looks a little bit different. But time freedom is about having more choices. And so added to Mitch's point, like with any entrepreneur, like there's times you want to spend time, a bunch of time doing whatever it is that you want to do. Sometimes like part of that could be 0 to 1, the stuff we're doing with 0 to 100. Other times it has to do with putting down deals. Other times it's just spending time with my family and traveling and having the freedom to just get up and go. But it's about the freedom to do what you want on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and really your entire life. And so for some, that may be working, that may be building a new business. And for others, that may be traveling the world. And so it's more about that clarity of what do you want your life to look like and how do you create that starting today?
Well, we call it the new currency of the rich. Like that, I think that's on the podcast cover, like, or in the intro, because it really is. I think back in the day, people would want to accumulate wealth and they would want to accumulate things. Well, more things, and I'm a victim of this. More things are just kind of a pain in the ass. You got to manage a vacation. I know it sounds like tough problems, but really it's like, it is truly the new currency of the rich. And I think it boils, like to Gabe's point, it boils down to choices. And it is really, really hard because I'm going through the same exercise. And I love this multiplication through subtraction, because I feel like a lot of people I'm talking to, that's sort of the topic of 2025. We're recording this podcast January 7th. But it really is, you have to stop and go, what the hell do I actually want? And remember in Kiyosaki's book, he talked about, was it Kiyosaki? Yeah, or maybe it was Tim Ferriss. Yeah, the 4-hour work week. He finally got like all this freedom and he like got a one-way ticket to Europe and then like woke up the next day in his hotel room and just freaked the hell out because he's like, what do I do now? It's a valid question. And I'm doing the same thing. Like, what is it I actually like? What is this next phase of my life? What do I really want? We come down to like what we do with our elites in 0 to 100. It's like, put together a vivid vision, like not just I want this much money, I want these things. It's like, what does my day look like? What do my relationships look like? What does my health look like? How do I feel? How do I sleep? What do I eat?
Well, and it's not just a one question thing. Like, I mean, Travis and I are having conversations right now. Hey, how do we realign the portfolio to more of what we want to support what we want to? Because we go, like I said, you go back and forth from that, like, hey, let's grow, let's go do this thing that we're excited about, right? Whatever that thing is. But then you turn around and you go, okay, wait, hold on a second. Is this exactly what we want? Is this supporting the portfolio? Is this, we've talked about different ideas where we're like, oh man, we're so excited about, we're pro forma, we'll play entrepreneur. And then we back up and we go, hold on a second. Man, what is this really going to mean? Is this going to mean calls every single day? Is this going to mean travel? Is this going to mean? And so I think that it's a consistent exercise. It's a multi-year check-in with realigning, backing up and saying, and Travis said this the other day, which I thought was, we were texting back and forth. And he goes, what if we just looked at our business like we had 5 years to live? What would we do? Let's ask those questions. And so we started asking those questions in this last week, which I think is an insane, it's like, it almost gave me chills because I'm going, wow, okay, I got 5 years to live. My business is going to look different. My initiatives, things I take on, the partnerships I have, things are going to look different. And I don't know. I think it's worthwhile.
Let's put James on the spot. You have 5 years to live. Hopefully not. Hopefully,
yeah,
a lot more. But this is like a real life live study case here. Like,
I love this.
You have built, and I'm putting you on the spot, but I know you well enough that I feel like I can do this.
No, for sure. Go.
You have built a very successful profitable business. You have your brokerage and you have your rentals, wholesaling. But if you're in alignment with like what you actually want, like what do you know right now, 2025, you have to take off your plate? Like if you had 5 years to live, what does your business look like? That's a good question.
That is such a good question, man.
Thank you. Usually Mitch doesn't give me credit for insightful things, but go ahead.
I think the number one thing that stresses me out the most is probably the real estate team and the real estate transactions. And the money is so good though that it's hard. And I have so much business always flowing in that I need to figure out a way to simplify that or give that away in some way, but still reap some rewards from it. But I asked you, because remember you had that mastermind for, I think it was like 6-week mastermind, Gabe. And then I asked you why you stopped and you said, well, it was caught, like it was taking up some time that you didn't want to, especially when you're on your trip. And then I said, well, why did you start 0 to 100? And because you're giving back and you had fulfillment and whatnot from that.
0 to 100 aligned fully 100% with everything that was important to me.
Yeah. And so I asked you that because, I wanted to figure out why. So for me to be 100% fully aligned, I think I got to figure out something with my real estate team and my real estate business itself. I like doing my rental properties. I like having a couple fix and flips every once in a while if somebody else is managing it, I don't know that I like making the calls anymore like I used to.
So here's a question for you. You're 5 years down the road. You knew you were going to die. You're on your deathbed, right? Unfortunately, it's a peaceful death. You're going to be fine. But you're looking back and you're like, so this is why this question's so important and digging deeper with this question. It's like, I'm looking back going, okay, I made all of that money. I kept the business transactions. I kept the team. I kept running it. I made an extra $7.5 million over the last 5 years than I would have. But you're on your deathbed and you're like, but I also missed out on $7.5 million worth of experiences with my family or seeing parts of the world I really wanted to see. That $7.5 million that's in your account from the transactions doesn't mean shit anymore. No, I'm not trying to coach you because I'm a victim of this as well, but it gets us thinking like but if you're 5 years later and you're like, I cut that out or I hired somebody. Like we have a guy that does a crap load of flips, makes a couple million a year in Sacramento and our GoBundance pod. But he's like, I'm hiring people to run that. Maybe I make half as much, right? But still, it's again, who, not how. But in that second scenario, you're laying on your deathbed and you're like, man, I traveled the world with my family. I did these crazy things. I gave back. I impacted communities. I did these things. Like, what's more meaningful? I think that's where that question gets really interesting.
And I think this is where we're, I think 0 to 100 is original because we focus on time is the asset. Time is the number one asset. And we talk about hitting R1 really early with very little money, a lot, all three of us. I mean, technically it's like, it's more important to free up that time than it is to buy material or to have, in other words, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, once they get past a certain point, they're trying to hit vanity metrics, whether it's making money or net worth or whatever that is. And they're trading vanity metrics for actual experiences, actual relationship with kids, and I'm not saying that's you, but I think it's just a good reminder, what are we all doing here? And what really matters? Because after a certain point, if you're trading your time to work and you don't love it and you have enough, then it's insane.
Well, case in point, we were planning on, I was like, oh, what should we do for spring break? And my wife's like, let's take the kids to London. I'm like, oh no, that's like a week and a half and the money and And I'm like, dude, my oldest son's 10. I've got 4 or 5 years left before when they even give a shit about me.
That's huge. So
why
your kids are getting older too.
Right. Why wouldn't I do that?
But unlike Travis's kids, my kids still love me as teenagers. So
everyone loves Gabe, even his kids.
But no, it's finding those kind of opportunities. I met someone in Whistler a couple months ago who is in the soccer world, and my youngest plays soccer, and now my 14-year-old, I have a trip planned to Brazil. He's going to play soccer in Brazil in June, and I get to go with. So it's looking through it in a different lens, right? It's just through a different lens. So James, I'm curious. I know your family is, very, very important to you. I know you enjoy business, right? And so I guess what part of your business do you enjoy the most? What brings you the most joy?
Oh, I'm really good at real estate transactions. So I would say kind of running those, but I don't like like Sunday night. I was negotiating an offer at 5:00 in the evening. Like, I just don't like doing that stuff, right? If I had all of that off my plate and I could work from, 8:00 to 4:00, 4:35, Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday, it would be the perfect situation, And I love acquiring rentals as well. I think it's just so cool to go, I own this, I own that. So,
But you just said that would be great. Sorry to interrupt, but why not do that? Why not put things in place?
I know. I don't know how to do that yet. I just,
but you're just, I think entrepreneurs go through phases, right? Like in the very beginning, you're starting out and you're like, dude, I'm not making any money. I'm running. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm cold calling. I'm just like that first 8 months, right? You're like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Is this even going to work? And then you figure it out. You start to right? You're calling for sale by owners. You're dialing it in, but you become rookie of the year the first year. Like, you figure it out and then you grow from there. And I would say that, it sounds like you're about to open the door to your third phase. And your third phase is to take what I've built, take the wealth I built, take the assets I built, and put all of those assets behind a why. All of them, every single dollar. And but it's not an easy door to walk through. It's just as hard as the first door when you said, hey, I'm going to be a real estate agent. I got to figure it out. It's not an easy door. And I think, in some ways, I think I'm there too. In some way, I'll walk through the door, I'll get lifestyle design, then I'll back up and I'll buy a dumb hotel. We all, right? We have to reassess and consistently say, hey, what do we want?
Well, it takes different mindsets, right? It takes one mindset to get to R1. By the way, Mitch said R1 earlier. For those of you that have been under a rock for the last several years, R1 in the 0 to 100 world means retirement number one, where you have enough passive income to cover all of your living and lifestyle expenses. But it takes one mindset to get to R1. It's tough, man. You got to bust your ass. You got to work hard, especially if you have a full-time job or you're a real estate agent working full-time. Once you get to R1, okay, now it takes maybe another mindset to scale. But now you're like Mitch said, you're at the third phase. We're giving you a counseling now. We're like, okay, son, let's hold hands. We're going to tell you how to run life.
You know what I love about this episode is what James is going through is a cycle that a lot of other people go through and can relate with. I know a lot of agents and brokers that are in very, very similar situation as you are, James, where it's like they are a successful real estate investor, broker, property manager, wholesale, all these things. And they're going, how do I achieve more time freedom? I've built this amazing business. So this took a little bit different turn than I was anticipating, but I love it because I do think that this episode will be helpful for a lot of other brokers in a very similar situation.
Yeah, and it's because you guys have all mentioned it. I've set myself up to do this. Why not just pull the plug? But my question, and I'm sure everybody else has this, and you guys are...
No. We only ask questions, James. Sorry. I'm
sorry.
joking. Yeah, okay, go ahead. You ask away, man. I'm joking. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll raise my... No, I'm just kidding. What do you guys feel is a good number monthly to live off of? And I know it's all subjective to what your lifestyle is, right? But if you wanted to live a decent life in America and whatnot, where would that be? And I feel like my number is 15 grand a month, right? So to live off of.
That's a very subjective question. We do this exercise in GoBundance called your enough number. And have you done that? You ever done your enough number? It's like you list out your perfect life, not all the nice shit you want to have to impress your friends, because that doesn't matter. Like, what is this amazing life that you have? And then break it down into a monthly expense, right? I mean, even a private jet, if you actually wanted that would break down into a monthly expense. Or a Ferrari, if you wanted things, or traveling, or experiences, or philanthropy, you break it down into sort of a monthly expense, and then you back into what that amount looks like plus some buffer. And that would be like R1 for us in this tribe is like, just replace your day job. You're not traveling, you're not jet setting the world or doing all these crazy things. R2, R3, R4 might be like probably where you're at. And I would say that's the exercise I'd work backwards on.
I don't personally see a lot of value in coming up with a number, because I do and I don't, because that R1 number for people, yes. What are they currently bringing in, right? That R1 number is essentially your financial freedom number. Like, what income, whether it's W-2, salary, some other business, that are you trying to replace so that you are financially free? But yeah, as far as having that 15K as your North Star, I don't like that metric in the sense of, I think it's more important what we've talked about this last 30 minutes. Like, what is it that you want your life to look like? How much time in a day do you want to own? And build it around that, because a lot of really cool shit, including time, is free. Like you know, and so I think it's less about the number and more in your mind, what does your life look like? And then building your business around that, making moves around that. I say no to a lot of things that would take me away from my family, my health, and my freedom, right? It's an easy one for me. That's not a number thing, right? That's not I could make 100K here or $1 million on this deal. It's would this take me away from my family and my health, my freedom?
Yeah. And a great example, like I make less than decent, you know, I have like my in-laws, right? I make less than them, but we go to Spain for a month and we go RV for 3 or 4 months, or we go do, you know, like I'm with my family a lot, and they're like, wait, I don't understand. You must make just a gobs and gobs and gobs of cash. And I'm like, actually, technically, I probably make less than you. And they're like, wait, because they're so focused on the money.
It's about taxes because you're a W-2.
First of all, I don't pay any taxes. But second of all, my time is extremely leveraged. So I look at them, I go, look, I have time. That tax thing's interesting, right? But like, I have time. And I think that's what people miss. People miss the point. You know, say someone's making 300,000 versus you're making 150 or whatever, but you have all the time in the world to do whatever you want. It's a totally different, you know, I think the number is just a piece of it.
Well, and to expand upon that enough number exercise, first of all, when we all did it, almost every person, when they actually dug into what their life would be like, maybe you want to take 3 international trips a year. I want to fly first class, or to Gabe's point, like health. Like one of the guys, like I would someday love to have someone that cooks my meals in my house for me, because that's healthy. I don't like to cook, but I like to be healthy, and it saves me time, right? So it's like backing into what does this life look like? Almost every single person that did this exercise realized that their enough number, that monthly number that they needed to make, they're either already there or it was way less than they thought. And I guarantee it was way, way, way less. You would think you would do that and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to make $100,000 a month or $200,000 a month to live this life. When they actually dug into it, like a personal chef costs this much, 3 international trips first class costs this much, you know, but like to Gabe's point, taking a sauna in your Costco sauna that costs you $3,000, you know, like is great. And it's impactful to your health and your life and your well-being, but it doesn't cost that much. So it's a lot less than you think. That's what I expect.
Awesome. Hey, my buddy Ryan Murdoch that you guys know, he's been traveling in his RV for 2 years. That's ultimate time freedom. He did that because he sold a bunch of his real estate. He's still a partner in Open Door Capital. He has ultimate time freedom. They've been in a van for 2 years, living his best life, traveling all through Mexico. And I think he's in Belize right now, or maybe back to Mexico, right? But it's like, he understands what's more important to him. He could put more deals together, but he owns 100% of his time, and he's doing what he actually wants to be doing. He's living the ideal life according to what's important to him. And that's 2 years, full absolute time freedom from the financial freedom he got from real estate. Could he become 2, 3, 4 times wealthier? Absolutely.
Would it impact his life 2 to 3, 4 times more?
No,
probably not.
Probably not.
Just a number at that point. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Should we send James an invoice for our therapy session today? I think this would be, Heidi, please send James.
Box of tissues.
Yeah, we joke. No, James, don't cry. You got to stop crying on the podcast here. No, I'm joking. No, I think it's like, in all seriousness though, James, you're a very impressive person. And I think you're like a duck. You're calm on the top, but like running, I don't know. You look very chill to me, but apparently you're running an empire. So, anyway, I'm super impressed with you. I do want to go back to that 8 months where you weren't making any money, because I think this is an important time, and we talked about it really quickly. But like, whether you're going out to find an investment property or you're ramping up to sell real estate, like there's a time there where you got to break through. We always talk about breaking through that wall. And I think that's, when I look at you, there's a lot of things that make you way different. Like you're very unique. You don't meet real estate agents that have done what you've done. So I want to talk about mindset a little bit. Maybe take me back that 8 months. Why are you different? How did you break through that wall? Why do you keep going? Why would you go month 7? Why would you wake up and keep doing what you were doing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I saw the possibilities, right? And I was reluctant to do what some of my coaching in the groups had said. So we had a coach that worked for our brokerage, and he wanted me to just sit on the phone and cold call for 2 to 4 hours a day, right? And I had already done that at Grand Canyon University. I was really good at it, but I didn't want to do call solicitations again. And all the other agents were, granted, they had been in the business for 10, 20, 30 years. So they were getting business, but it's from their SOI. And I thought, I know a lot of people. I grew up in Prescott, and yeah, I'll be fine. And months went by, and the coach was like, you need to dial. How many deals do you have? You check in with me at month 4. I'm like, none. I'm like, I'm going to try open houses, all this stuff. And then finally one day he asked me again. I'm like, okay, I'll sit down and start dialing. So I started dialing, started getting some listing appointments. Those weren't working out. And then finally it all started snowballing, right? But back then when you got a listing, it took about 75 days for it to get under contract. So, and then the escrow period took another 30 to 45 days. So, I just knew that it was possible, and I never wanted to really give up on myself. And I lived super frugally. So I just saw what my guardian father had done, and I had watched a lot of YouTube videos on prospecting, and I saw what was possible. And I was like, it's going to happen for me one day. I'm making a little bit of progress every day. I thought to myself, if I can just improve just a little bit every single day, eventually I'm going to be at a spot where hopefully nobody can touch me in my market. And it got to that point, right, where I hit my peak. So it was just believing in myself, and just really, and you guys know this. I mean, it's like working out. You just got to stay consistent. And if you stay consistent, then you look like Gabe, right? And you're just there.
I'm never going to look like Gabe, James, but thanks for
that's the
thanks for rubbing that in for us.
I mean, Tom Brady says it all the time, right? You just stay consistent. And I knew if I stayed consistent, I would learn and figure it out, and it would all work out for me.
Did you read a book at some point in life before all of this? Have you always had this like drive to be? A lot of the people we interview, including all of us, there was like this turning point in our mental health, essentially, where we read a book, or we always just, or like we came from meager means, we had a chip on our shoulder. We always talk about this in the tribe. In fact, one of the exercises we have for our elites or school of scale people is when they start, like, figure out your why. What is your burning why? What is your burning why? What drove you to get up every morning and get your face kicked in on the phone, metaphorically? What drives you today? Is your why changed? Take us through like pre-successful James to where you're at today and what your why's been.
I grew up super poor with a single mom, and a lot of my friends that I had like mom, dad, brothers, sisters, and everything, and they were making good money. So I always felt like I was a little bit behind the curve, but I always believed in myself, and my mom always gave me a lot of confidence to go do stuff. But I remember the first time I stayed at one of my friend's house, his dad was a doctor, and it's this massive, like 4,000 square foot house. And I'm like, I want that, right? And so I just focused on my grades. And when I started focusing on my grades, I got straight A's. I became captain of the soccer team after that, just by working hard and treating people right. And then and I just always felt like I was a little bit behind the curve with everybody else that had grown up differently than me, that they just had a little bit extra because of the support they had with their family or the money. So I always thought to myself, I got to work harder than everybody else to get to that spot. I got to work harder. And so I didn't take it as like poor, pitiful me. I said, in order to get to above where they're at, I need to put in a little bit more effort, right? So nothing was going to be given to me. So I just always thought, I'm going to outwork them, and I'm just going to try to stay consistent. And honestly, when you grow up poor, whatever you grow up with nothing given to you, you have thicker skin. I feel like I had thicker skin than a lot of people, and I was willing to, be bashed in a little bit more to get to where I wanted to. I mean, honestly, early in my career, I was like, you let people talk to you a certain way, you do certain transactions that other people wouldn't do. Like I was selling low income houses in neighborhood, and people were like, oh, James just sells the cheap houses, right? But I started somewhere, and I eventually moved up to selling $1 million homes and whatnot. Eventually I do everything. I'm not just going to stick to one neighborhood, but I just kept that belief. And I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos. And luckily, people like Gabe and a lot of other people that were on the podcast I listened to gave me their time and then sent me to other podcasts that I could listen to. And then another big thing I did was connect with groups like your tribe that you guys have. Is a awesome group to get involved in, but you have to start the work. Like just paying to be in the group is great and it's the first step, but you have to listen to everything you guys are saying. And like, I don't have to listen to your guys' podcast, right? But I love hearing what your other guests have to say. And I love those little tidbits and hearing other people talk about where they started from. I would say the majority of people that are in our spot didn't grow up with money, right? They all came from somewhere. So I knew that all these people I listened to were in this similar spot and they're where I want to be. So it made it more possible, right? It's like the guy that ran the 4-minute mile. Like nobody ever thought they could do it. And then as soon as it happened, there were other people that started following suit. So I just use those as my examples and followed that. And that helped me believe in myself.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love how I think people that start with zero are willing to do things that others aren't.
Yeah.
Right. I remember I started selling real estate like you, James. I didn't ever rise to where you are, but I remember going to like a listing appointment. I waded through water to a single wide on cinder blocks. Like I was wet. I was wet by the time I walked in and I was like, yep, I'll take it.
The other thing is don't listen to other people that haven't been in this where you want to go. Don't listen to them. Like Gabe will tell a story of when he was in the military and guys would be like, oh yeah, you're going to be a real estate investor. No way. Right. And then he gets out and he does what he did. Like there have been so many people that told me I wasn't going to be able to do it or it was far-fetched or like, I remember I was sitting in my office and it was probably my 3rd year. And one of the guys at one of the title companies knocked on my door. I was prospecting. And so I told him to hold on. I finished with the call. I waved him in. He goes, I just want to say I'm really proud of you. Like you've done really well. Me and a lot of other people didn't think that you'd make it, right? But it was because everybody in Prescott's like 50, the average real estate agent's like 52 years old. I came in there at 25, and just took it by storm. Like I could see why people would think that, but I believe in myself, but don't let other people hold you back. Like there's so many good examples.
You got to be a contrarian thinker. Yeah. So many people in our own lives and so many people on the podcast, whether they were in I think we had a firefighter that made it big, like you or Gabe in the military. There's so many, and even me, like, don't do that. Why would you do that? Why would you take the risk? And then it's like, oh, must be nice. And you're like, yeah, it is nice. It is nice, but you have to think differently and you have to surround yourself with people that think differently. And like you said, have accomplished or are accomplishing what you are trying to accomplish. I always say that, man, that's the biggest mindset hack. It's just getting around the right people.
And you mentioned too, James, like incremental improvement. I think that when you've got the grit to stick with something, right? Consistency paired with incremental improvement, it compounds. In other words, you'll hit the curve eventually. I remember even like going after mobile home parks. It was like, well, first of all, I got to figure out where, like, in other words, breaking it into multiple steps, right? Well, where do you find a mobile home park, even a number for it? Well, how do I get it? Okay, my next thing is I'm just going to get a seller on the phone. Once I get on the phone, it's like, well, what am I going to say to them? Like in other words, like it's broken up into multiple things that you're solving and you're incrementally improving. And all of a sudden, just like you're in your real estate sales career, that last 4 months, you hit a curve because you'd solved, how do I get somebody on the phone? How do I get, do a listing presentation? How do I show them that I'm the best? How do I actually sell the home and transaction coordinate? How do I so I just think like when you never stop, you will succeed.
Well, it comes down to grit too. I think that's something we don't talk enough about. And you mentioned it, like, Mitch wading through, nasty water or renting a house out that some guy let his dog crap all over the place, or like, Gabe, and he's got some crazy grit stories. And it comes down, sometimes it just comes down to the people that come from nothing. They're willing to do whatever it takes, like talk to some random stranger at the urinal, right? In fact, I'm trying to figure out a way to give my kid grit. So I'm going to just send him into all the bathrooms and have him talk to random strangers.
I wouldn't recommend that.
One of the things I wanted to say for the listeners also is like, you don't have to have a home run, right? Gabe, you were working as a janitor and you eventually got your income. Your rents covered your income, right? Because you got a certain amount of rental properties that covered your janitorial income. So you were financially free. I mean, you talk about that often in a lot of stuff that you talk about.
Well, I was working in a special education class, but I just happened to be cleaning shit out of a stall. A kid threw everywhere. So it oftentimes turned into a janitorial type job. James, you have super impressive story. You've done a lot of things, but one thing you touched on that I don't want to overlook is, and one thing I know about you is you're a continual learner. Like you educate yourself, you listen to the podcasts and YouTube and the books, and it's, you mentioned like you listen to other people's stories, and I think you can learn so much from hearing other people's stories, what to do right, what not to do, what aligns with your life, what doesn't align with your life. And that's something that I really want to highlight. Not only are you a continual learner with the books and the podcasts and YouTube, you're also not afraid to reach out to people and keep reaching out to people. I didn't know who you were. You reached out, you kept reaching out. You're not afraid to text people, call people, keep calling people, and build relationships with the people that you want in your life. And that's something I think a lot of people are afraid to do, or they will reach out one time. The reason that we're connected is because you didn't reach out one time, you kept reaching out. And so we became friends. We became, you became someone that I talk to on a regular basis. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that. Or if they reach out, once. And so you're a great example of like finding people that you want to be around and getting in their life, getting in their world in some way. And I actually think it's a little bit of a superpower. Like, you never stop learning, you never stop educating yourself, and you're not afraid to reach out to people whose lives you want to be a part of.
Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate that. Yeah. Just make the call, because all of you guys are super giving with your time and you want to share this. You're doing this because you've made it to a certain spot where you said it in your mastermind when we were at the house. Like, you guys want to give back at this point and show people that it's doable, right? So being a part of that group and reaching out to you guys you guys want to give back. You become philanthropists at a certain point, So, Gabe, you're always on podcasts. Travis, you don't even have to work if you didn't want to, with everything that you did in your prior life to real estate investing, and now you're starting this, and Mitch, same thing. Like, you guys, you're choosing at this point to give back, and I just think that's super awesome, and that's something I want to do as well.
We love it. Well, I can't wait we'll have you on in a year, and I want to hear how you took 2025. You took all the
I got to figure it out soon.
You have a box of tools, right? You've got a business, you've got cash flow, you've got wealth, you've got equity. Like, how do you realign and reconnect those assets that support your life in a way that you truly want? I think we all need to ask that question for 2025. We all need
every year, multiple times a year. We're asking it. Like I said, we're asking it right now. Like, we're not.
Yeah.
We're not preaching from any pedestal. I'm definitely not. I'm consistently asking myself that question.
And it's all about the base hits, not about the home runs. Every little base hit.
Absolutely. We had was it Aaron West that we had? Who do we have on, Gabe?
Yeah, I think it's Aaron West.
His whole mantra was like, everybody's looking for the home run. He's like, dude, I just do base hit,
one after another.
Base hit. And 10 years later, it looks like home run, home run, home run. And that's when I think about real estate. Real estate has a way to make you look really, really, really smart. Even some mediocre investments, a decade from now. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, James, we are at the top of the hour. I want to get you out of here with our final question that we ask.
He listens to this podcast. He knows what it is.
He knows it.
He's already ready for it.
But one of the, good with your time, because one of the benefits for our elite members is they get to stay on with our guests after the podcast recording. They get to do a live Q&A with you and all our other podcast guests. That's a benefit of our elite members. So if one of you guys want to take James away with our final question, and then James, we'll get you over live with our elite members, many of which because you met them in Scottsdale in November, and I'm sure they'll love to reconnect with you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right, who's taking it? You want me to take it?
Yeah, take it away, Mitchell.
James, you know this question already. You're on your buddy's couch. No network other than your buddy, apparently. Okay, so somebody used that a while ago, which I thought was
he's useless. Your buddy's useless.
Smart.
Nice guy, but useless.
Your buddy has a very low IQ, barely. Anyway,
he's a mongrel.
Not a smart person. Yeah. Okay, you're on your buddy's couch. He's useless. No network, no cash, no net worth. But you have your experience, what you've already done, and you want to go build something. You want to go build a company. You want to go build wealth. You want to go build time freedom. What do you do? What does your first week look like? Your first month look like?
I mean, it's amazing to me that people they want to be where I'm at and they want a job, but they want me to like pay them $100,000 a year right away, but they want to be where I'm at instead of just working for me for like minimal or free and me giving everything to them. Like, I would go find somebody that is where I want to be and I would just work for them and say, you could pay me minimum, or can I get 5 hours? I'll work for you a day and I'll work at night and I just want to figure everything out. I would just go to somebody that is doing what I want to do at a high level and where I want to be and go offer to work for them.
So many people chase money versus like connections and experience. And people think, money's the byproduct, but they get so focused. I love that answer, man.
Such a great answer. And we've had guests that have done exactly that. You mentioned Adisha. That's exactly what he did, is went and worked for someone for free. I'm surprised none of our guests said, like, I would find a new buddy. Like, you're talking about this guy sitting on a couch with their buddy that has no IQ. And
right. I love that. Yeah.
Like,
he's a mongrel.
I think one person said, get off the couch or something. I wouldn't be sitting on the couch, right?
We got to make sure to talk down that buddy from now on. Really make him just not real dumb, So
he's not a resource for you.
That's not a real buddy.
Well, he's letting you sleep on the couch. So he's something. I don't know.
Dirty couch, and it stinks like the rest of his house, bro. Hey, James, thank you so much for your time, man.
Yeah, you're welcome.